As you saw, also with us in commentary, Adelaide and Collingwood, and Dangerfield's made an impact in the midfield already this season, and he gets an early hand on it. Van Berlo with the kick out to him again, and he can power away from Swan here. Little swivel of the hips and deep into the forward line, and that's a good strong mark to poor pleasure. So this Adelaide side, which if they win tonight will be playing in the NAB Cup Grand Final, they've started very positively. Jared, welcome to you.
Good on you, Hutto. He's very much the missing link, Jason Paul-Pleasure. An outstanding small full forward, if you like, but he's a good crummer as well, generally a good converter. But last year, of course, he missed the majority of the season.
Well, he lasted just 5 minutes last year.
That would be the majority of the season, with I think it was a dislocated shoulder. So he is a welcome addition back to this group.
And we can see why. Can mark and can kick goals. And as Jared mentioned, maybe the missing piece in the puzzle for the Crows, and certainly rated here so highly by the Adelaide Crows, as I think he is right across the league.
Well, he solves one of their great problems, sure. Yeah. Last year was stoppages and scoring once the ball got inside their forward 50. But
the NAB pack will go back to his junior club, of course.
Roval? Might be the Roval too, we'll have to find out. But gee, that was a penetrating kick. He's shown that he's got a knowledge of where he is out in the footy field, because he's had some space given to him. I think not a lot of time put into him from some of the senior players of Adelaide.
And Nathan Buckley during the week said he wanted someone to step up, or a couple to step up. Clearly there's a couple of spots in that forward line for the small forwards.
So the Magpies have a 4-point lead as the Crows able to squeeze it forward. Tippett just couldn't quite read under some sort of pressure. Oh, he gets some help from Keefe, Thompson, Van Berlo. Tippett again, Petrenko, enough space to work the angles off the boot. And Adelaide, a pretty sharp opening here, retake the lead.
Well, I think the majority of clubs are treating this week as the major warm-up to the first round of AFL. There's only one or two that are resting a large majority of senior players. Collingwood would be arguably one, but the Bulldogs also. They've got so many good youngsters coming through. We don't know really which ones are going to make the ultimate break, but they've got a hell of a lot of blokes trying.
Right, I'm with you, Jared. No, their depth is okay, there's no doubt. You'd love to have Cracker, of course. And
John Cock as the Crows reboot. Tippett against three flew, so that meant on the ground there was Crows everywhere. Sloan bursting to the top. Walker hasn't had much of it yet. Oh, he missed an opportunity. He's gone back and got it, and then he's had it smothered. Not his night so far. Side bottom. It's just maybe that hit of dew that Kingy was talking about. Vigorous tackling in there. Now Sloan, can he show them how to do it? He had to bail out as well.
Just missed a couple of handball targets. Tippett going back onto his left. That was smart play.
That was brilliant from Walker. Over the top. Vince runs in and puts it through.
Really gifted, talented player is Walker, and we saw it on display there. Just instinctive tap into space. Could have been another
Jared, have a look at this tackle. I think Walker's a little bit lucky if he had had his head down, but he
between the numbers that are down there at the moment, because at the moment they've probably got their starting lineup there.
I think it's the chemistry, boys, no doubt. That's why the NAB Cup would be great for the forwards here. Paul-Pleasure seems to be the target more often than not. The bigger boys need to be in those prominent positions for this type of kick here.
And now they're charging. Dangerfield.
Yeah, good hit.
Wouldn't you love being a forward in those circumstances? And Walker out to meet it. It's actually, I think, just inside the arc, so it's just for 6.
That was magnificent running from half back then, just to get the ball into the corridor. And Mark going back with the flight of ball, a bit of courage shown, but then the release of the handball, no one can defend that.
Could have been a collision too. They worked it well between each other.
Tippett's conversion was one of the factors that he just needs to deal with, but you just saw a great kick and a really good lead from two young players for the Crows combined.
So Taylor Walker, and that's going to work back pretty nicely. And the Crows finally on target. Get back within 1 point. And it is exciting times for Adelaide if they can keep all these players out on the park. It's going to be a great brand of footy to watch.
Substitution alert.
Well, I think the other thing with the Adelaide Crows, like a lot of solid deep defence, but he is coming off. He's got one of the snoz, I would think. And that's why this man's so dangerous playing deep. But I agree with Kingy, the height factor, you want to get that on the last kick and the deepest kick.
Or maybe the tactic is to just keep dragging Nick
That's what
Maxwell
they're doing.
to the last line, and that is poor Pleasure's man, no doubt. But I'd just like to see those big bodies at full forward if they could.
Maxwell slowly makes his way off.
Scott Pendlebury's the replacement player. Once he's in position, you can go.
So Pendlebury back on the ground. Now it's over to Jason Pleasure. Only once in his 5 seasons has he managed 20 games, so certainly injury prone. Great to see him up and running. Stabs that one through, and the Crows back within a point. Let's get back down to David King.
Well, I think this confusion with these key post forwards of the Crows needs to be ironed out. They need to either be hit-up targets for this sort of kick here, going to the half-forward flank. So we should see not poor
against his direct opponent, and that's probably what they are thinking with Maxwell. But again, I'm pretty well with you on the key forwards.
Vince, as McKernan's into the play as well, we saw him back in the ruck. He started off as a sub. Smith with the entry. And the crowd like that free kick.
The other thing we're missing, boys, at this stage is just the dominance in the clearance situations at the moment. Adelaide lead the clearances 15-7. I can't remember the last time the Crows have had this sort of dominance around the packs.
Collingwood missing Luke Ball. Daisy Thomas, who's not always in with the clearance. There's a bit of experience not there. So Tippett to put the Crows in front for the first time since fairly early in the opening quarter. Has to kick it 50 metres. That's not a problem. Accuracy, no issue either. And the Adelaide Crows in front. Much to the delight of the locals.
We actually hit that magnificently. Sure, there's nothing wrong with his kicking technique. He did have a few misses, too many misses last year, and you can see there was a hand in the back. Umpire
Put off. Dangerfield fights on. Did well against 2 though. Overwhelmed in the end and pushed in the back. And again, the home crowd like what they hear from the umpire.
Well, that time they used Sean McKernan in the ruck, and how they are going to utilise their 3 tools is going to be really interesting. When we go back to that lead.
Now, here's Matty Wright, Jared. Now, this is a senior player who's playing at senior level. I think a youngster would have felt the pressure of the opponent being running on his back, but that nearly one grab at your toenails just shows he's playing senior footy and he knows how to relate to the pressure around the ball.
He did it well.
That's your 20 seconds now.
So Patrick Dangerfield, as you can see, continuing that trend, has got more contested possessions than uncontested so far. 10 in total. This for his first goal of the night. That'll do too. So the Crows, a real spurt here as we get towards the midpoint of the second quarter. They're up by 11.
Well, he's always been able to have the majority of his possessions as a contested, but he's always averaged around the high teens, and part of that.
And now Dangerfield, and the crowd get excited, and why not? He's off with 1. He's got 3 Crows to go to. He could have taken his pick. He chooses Taylor Walker. And we'll love watching Patrick Dangerfield play footy this year, if that's any indication of what we're going to see.
Well, as the train just comes into the station, Jared, and the siren goes, that is exactly what has been missing in Adelaide's midfield for the last 2 years. Someone to break the lines, become an 80-metre player and a ball carrier. That splits any zone apart and any defence apart.
A brilliant play like that needs a goal on the end of it. So we'll see whether Taylor Walker can kick his second of the night. (7-6) the Crows. Collingwood also inaccurate. 5-7 along with their super goal. And that's pretty good connection from Taylor Walker. So Adelaide will take a lead into half-time, and that lead will be 8 points. So 1 super goal for the Pies. Side bottom. Often when there are a number of changes to personnel, it takes a while, we've seen, for sides to just settle down and find the footy again. Oh, Swan, how can he get through that far? And how far did he actually travel too as well? Got it to centre half forward. And Ricky Henderson is into the play, number 45. We saw him briefly there. And the Crows working across half back.
Sam Shaw took that front spot for Adelaide. but he just went for the chest mark and he
Good
just
play.
had to get it in his hands.
That was Callan, and he's also into the team. Van Berlo not quite able to take it cleanly. You know that Callan's a bit of an opportunist, and he's worked that very well. And I've liked the look of this young man, Kerridge, in what we've seen so far in the NAB Cup, and he walks straight in and puts it through.
Well done to Ian Callanan. Now, you said, how did Swanee get through this? How did he get in that position where he wasn't on a man, but he was like he was playing on a wing and got behind the ball? Just a smart player, knowing that he couldn't influence the contest, but then broke it. But just here,
19 side bottom, and away for Young. Fasolo calls for it down the line. Ugly looking kick, just over Dangerfield's head. Could still turn out okay, but won't though. Advantage paid, quickly, swiftly taken. Didn't do Shaw much good. He had to kick hurriedly, and O'Brien will swallow that up, or does he? Yes.
Gee, no advantage in that though for the Crows, you wouldn't have thought. At that last contest.
The player took it.
Yeah, I know.
But you're up to date with the rules, Shuri.
No, I'm just saying, I didn't think there was a lot, but once they do it, the umpire has got no option.
Keith again went for the skipper Maxwell. Poor Pleasure shows them how. Kicks it quickly into the 50. Kerridge again and off to Van Berlo. And apparently he's off. He adjusts perfectly though and slots at the Adelaide skipper. And the Crows crowd absolutely delighted. And I think more delighted from what, as we've been discussing, with what might be with this side this year.
Well, Nathan Burlow's delighted because you make a decision. You either go back and kick the goal.
Would punch in that position, but Reid has got that much confidence now as a centre half back, and he just goes for the ball.
And Sean McKernan didn't know what to do in that situation, Drew.
Payne to Buckley, who only just got it away in time. You can see being harassed the Pies. Crows really starting to work hard with each other, making life difficult for Collingwood. Buckley. Now to ball. And we get it again. Crows fans enjoying what they're seeing. But Collingwood obviously have a lot of young players out there, and we've got to keep that in mind.
Good desperation there, just fingertip into that tackle.
Tip at the give, and Callanan again, and he's going to create another goal. Easy stuff for Lynch, who pops it through.
Well, he's just turning Harry O'Brien inside out at the moment, Ian Callanan. And the good thing, just both sides of his body, he's got poise and just great vision also.
He's 29 years of age, sorry.
Well,
picked up last year,
Harry goes to the
You think that was serious enough contact?
Well, if you take your eye off the ball, they hate it. That's the one thing to protect the blokes.
Not enough force there, Shuri. Good decision, 50 metres.
I'm with you, but I bet you they look at it.
Here's Henderson. He's pushed it a little, and he's pushed it a lot.
I just got out of that umpire signature yesterday. I was here for an hour and a half.
Let's have another look. Sure, he's right. He takes his eye off the ball, gives away 50 metres.
See, if he never got up then, if he never say he hit him in the ribs and winded him, it would have looked, it would have been really bad for him.
Well, that's a pretty good defensive setup here by the Crows. He's kicked that to 4 Crows players against 1. Unfortunately for him, side bottom came through, but it hasn't been good enough.
Lynch to Callanan again. He's a sharpshooter.
Oh.
Look at that.
He's a star.
Oh, young 29-year-old.
Well, no Leon Davis, who kicked, I think it was 113 kickouts for the Pies last year. 97 of them were effective. Is going to be missed in that particular area because
maybe a future for him on the rules committee.
I reckon Darren Jolly will see that play just in humorous sidelight to the review, I would think.
I hope so, because Matthew Campbell will certainly be taking a very close look at it.
Sure, took it from Yanch.
Do you get the feeling that the Crows are just working 5% harder in the chasing department, Shuri?
Yeah, I think Collingwood's nearly had the better of it the last 10.
Last few minutes, but the chase for me, and maybe they've got a little bit more to play for. There's got half a dozen premiership players here in the Collingwood side that really know that they're about just getting themselves ready for round 1. I think there's a fair bit more for the Crows to play for at the moment.
Smith really gets that into a dangerous spot, and Walsh runs onto it, and he works it nicely through. Lynch, I should say.
Well, it's a darn good goal, no matter the name. It was a really good conversion. Long kicking, just a mongrel kicking. I mean, that's all you got sometimes. And once again, the space that Kingy mentioned has...
The system is a mess, though, isn't it?
Well, just make it 2 goals, Hutto, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it.
All right. Van Berlo, Riley, and now Dangerfield. And again, this is we've talked about this all night. They've worked through the Collingwood press. They're away. Portlesia kicks it deep. Couldn't quite get it. McKern's going to get the free this time.
He still didn't do it well, though, Hutto. You've got to take the early contact and allow the ball to either drop over. See, now I reckon he should have taken a step forward. That's just too easy. Yeah, all right, he's got the mark there, but he should be grabbing those as a strong forward. That's what makes you a very good forward.
Was he lucky to get the free?
Oh, well, if you chop your arms running away with no eyes on the ball, it has to be a free kick.
I wasn't sure he actually made contact with the arm there anyway. McKernan with the shot. This will make life extremely difficult for Collingwood. And the margin is now beyond 5 goals. 33 points. 32 points.
Jared, who would you get?
Before you go there, Shorty, I remember seeing Patrick Dangerfield as a 16-year-old playing down at Geelong. And this is what I remember. Just some young kid bursting off the half-back 5 metres. Probably, 40 centimetres off the ground.
Nathan Buckley wouldn't be happy with that defence, though. No. You can see Luke Rounds in the corridor. Had to be aware of what's around him to help put some pressure on then.
So 41 points the margin now. 101 to 60.
Well done.
Eventually they get it out. Heady work again from Dangerfield.
Oh.
Brody Martin's shown a bit too.
Yes.
He's a fair way back in the line, but he's pushing a claim tonight. And
got one forward here.
Well, they all just fell away. And in the end, couldn't be much easier for Tom Lynch on the end of the Kerridge handball. Just as if the Collingwood players just dissipated then.
But he ran from the half-forward flank. They were looking at him, expecting him not to get the ball, but he kept on going, Tom Lynch. And finally the moons aligned for him. And he just bobbed up on the end of the second handball. There's one kerfuffle going on because I think it's Penrith go to every press conference with a fridge full of their sponsors' milk. And the new commission aren't all that impressed with it, but the club at this stage are holding firm.
Some scrappy footy eventually breaks open. Again, Martin and Callanan involved. The ball goes inside 50. Now, can he play forward as an option? Can he rest forward?
Tell you what, he's been impressive tonight. I thought he's had the better of Darren Jolly, even the ruck work, maybe not the clearances as much, but I think they have won them. See, if he can get on his bike like he just did then, he looks fit.
I reckon you've got to survive as a ruckman. You've got to be able to do a few minutes up in the forward line to just help out with the evenness of the workload.
Yeah, not a problem there. And the Crows now are out beyond 50 points. It's 53 the diff.
Well, look, that'll be disappointing for the Pies, but I just said before the game, 15 to 7 players.
GWS and the Gold Coast found out if there's 18 or 19 of them all playing together, it's a lot more difficult to impress than if there's 2 or 3 young kids surrounded by old blokes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was really impressed last week, though, by the Cats' ability to find 3 or 4 players.
Another kick over the back.
Portlesia takes the mark.
The other thing too, the Crows have played on all the case. As soon as they get a mark in the midfield, it's in quick handball inside, outside corridor. You just cannot get back in your zones then as a defensive unit.
So Portlesia, who's again, as last week had an encouraging night up in Alice Springs, has kicked 2 goals tonight. This for his 3rd. Warming the hearts of the Adelaide fans. They lead by 59 points. So a lot to like for Adelaide fans.
Yeah, I think they'll be going into the season proper, Adelaide, now with far higher expectations than they were.
Different team in the way that they go about their defensive work this year.
Brodie Martin feeling the heat. Van Berlo, the skipper, been good tonight. His 20th disposal. Taking Adelaide forward. Lovely gift from McKernan to Callanan. And it's all fallen into place for the Crows.
Well, we had a bit of a giggle at McKernan's expense a few minutes ago, but he's had the last laugh. That was absolutely fantastic work from the big fella. Quick hands, in front, laid it off, goal set up.
Fourth goal coming up, you would think, for Jason Porplesia. Got a few experienced ones off themselves now. The Crows, Vince, Thompson, Dowdy, Knights, Taylor Walker. But overall for the night, of course, they've had a lot more experienced players playing than the Pies. So Porplesia for 4, that'll do. And they lead by 66.
Gee, I've been impressed by Ian Callanan, 29 years of age. I know he's small, but he's smart, Jerry.
He's a good player, there's no doubt about that.
You know, he could be in their top 22 to get.
I guess the only complicating issue there would be that the Crows are going to...
Yeah, and West Coast haven't moved.
West Coast haven't moved, but the West Coast do more miles than anybody else bar Freo through the season. But let's take a look at some courage here from Kerridge, who was committed for the ball. Both players eyes strongly on the ball.
Been impressive.
He was their top pick last year. That's not a bad strike either. Oh, McKernan! Oh. He likes them, where he can just sort of run in nicely over the top. Martin set it up, and McKernan finishing strongly here.
Well, let's see how he works this through, Hutto. Big fella on the outside of his boot.
You're with him, sure.
Yeah, I'll give it to him this one.
And a winner.
Well, he's still got. I don't know. I think I'll be trying to find a player within the state of South Australia to say, come down and teach this bloke how to use your body well. This time he just runs and jumps. We know he's got athletic ability, and he really had to sit, so he should have marked that. Any good sides, you know, they get to 12 home games probably, maybe 11 or 12. Got to win at least 9 to 10 of them.
There's a good build-up of foot skills there, but the all-important kick into the 50 was the one that wasn't quite sharp enough. And so Clark. Have you seen Marty Clark tonight, Shaw? He's had 15 disposals.
Yeah, no, I think he's been pretty good. You know, with Leon Davis down not playing the game, he gives you some run from there. One-on-one, they'll take him deep, I would think. You know, he's going to be surrounded by some better players too. Heath Shaw will come into the back line. Chris Tarrant.
Is there any concerns at all for you, either of you guys, about Collingwood?
Oh, not for me, not at the moment.
Nah.
And it's too hard to say. They've come in with a really inexperienced group.
Thompson banging away.
They've got 12, best part of it, they've got the whole season.
And
great snap.
Yeah, McKernan, he's finished with a flourish here. And the margin is just blown right out now to 77 points. A tight first half. What about you, Kingy? Have you got any concerns about the Pies?
No concerns. They'd be really disappointed tonight to concede 21 goals. I know it's inexperienced.